Assalamu alaikum and welcome. Have you ever thought about what the ultimate, deepest form of regret would actually feel like? Well, today we're going to explore a really powerful passage from the Quran that gives us a window into that exact feeling. We're diving into some verses from Surah Ash-Shu'ara, which means the poets, and they paint this incredibly vivid picture of a wish that's made way, way too late.
And this right here, this is the very heart of what we're talking about today. It's this powerful, desperate cry. It's a wish that's just overflowing with a clarity that only comes when it's too late. Honestly, this one verse really captures the entire feeling of the passage we're about to unpack.
So, here's how we're going to walk through these verses. First, we'll set the scene on the Day of Judgment. Then, we'll look at how this feeling of regret just completely unfolds. After that, we'll see that desperate wish for a second chance, get the divine perspective on it all, and finally, we'll connect it all back to what it means for you and me right now.
Okay, so first things first, we need to understand where we are. Our journey begins in the hereafter. What we're about to hear isn't something happening on Earth. It's like we're getting a peek into a conversation taking place on the Day of Judgment, and we're hearing it from those who are just now, in that moment, realizing the true weight of their choices.
It's also really important to know that this dialogue doesn't just pop up out of nowhere. It's actually part of the bigger story of Prophet Abraham, and it's reflecting on what happened to his people who chose to reject the message. So what we're reading serves as both a powerful lesson from the past and really a timeless warning for all of us. So how does this heavy realization even begin? Well, you know how when people are faced with huge consequences, the first reaction is often to find someone else to blame? That's exactly what happens here. The first thing they say is, "And no one led us astray except the mujrimun." Now, this word mujrimun, it points directly to the guilty ones, the leaders, the influencers, the ones who are actively pushing falsehood. It's such a classic human response, isn't it? Shifting the blame. But at the same time, it's also a confession that they let themselves be misled. Okay, so after blaming their leaders, what's their next move? They desperately start looking for help. They look around and it hits them. So now we have no intercessors. The key concept here is shafa'a, intercession. Think about it. All the idols, the false gods, the powerful people they used to count on, they're all completely powerless now. Any hope they had in a worldly advocate just evaporates. And then comes this final, crushing blow. The feeling of being completely and utterly alone. The verse says, "and not a devoted friend." And the Arabic term used here, Sadiq Hamim, it means so much more than just a buddy. It's that deep, loyal, ride-or-die friend who would do anything for you. And in that moment, they realize that even that most basic human support system is gone. Every relationship they built on falsehood has just dissolved into nothing. So you can really see this painful progression, right? It's the complete stripping away of every false support system they ever had. First, they point the finger at their leaders. Then they look for someone powerful to save them. And finally, they search for just one close friend. And there's no one. They are left totally and completely alone with their choices. It's from this place of absolute helplessness, no one to blame, no one to help, no one to even comfort them, that the emotional peak of this whole passage just erupts. And there it is again. This is it, the ultimate expression of regret. It's not just a wish, it's a full-blown admission. They can finally see the truth with perfect, painful clarity. They finally understand what it means to be among the believers. But this realization, it comes only after the chance to act on it is gone forever. This isn't some isolated idea in the Quran either. This theme of wanting a do-over pops up in a few places, and it's always hammering home the same profound spiritual truth. This life, this test, it's a one-time shot. Our choices have a finality to them that is just absolute. All right, so now let's shift gears a bit. We're going to move to the divine commentary that closes out this whole scene. The perspective zooms out from the regretful human voice to God's timeless wisdom, which puts everything we've just heard into context. So God's commentary starts with, "Indeed, in that is a sign." The Arabic word here is ayah, and it means so much more than just a sign. It's a profound lesson, something to really reflect on. So this entire story, Abraham, his people, their final regret, it's all being presented to us as a powerful lesson for all of humanity. But then the verse continues with something pretty sobering. But most of them were not believers. And this just makes it crystal clear that the guidance was always there. The problem was never a lack of evidence or some hidden truth. It was a conscious choice to ignore the signs. And then the passage does something amazing. It perfectly balances two of God's attributes. It says, "And indeed, your Lord, He is the exalted in might, Al-Aziz, the merciful, Ar-Rahim." Now, at first, that might sound like a contradiction, right? Might and mercy? But it actually gives us the full picture. See, this combination gives us such a profound insight. His might, Al-Aziz, means that justice will be served, no question. But his mercy, Ar-Rahim, means that punishment only comes after countless signs and warnings and endless opportunities to turn back have been given. So it's a message of both accountability and hope, all in one.
So what does this ancient story, this glimpse into the next life, have to do with us, right here, today? Let's boil it all down to the key lessons that are truly timeless.
So what are the big takeaways here? Well, first, our choices in this life have a permanence that we might not always appreciate in the moment. The people we align with, if those alliances aren't built on truth, they won't last. The passage teaches us that the absolute greatest regret is seeing the truth clearly, but only when you can't do anything about it. And it reminds us that real friendship is what helps guide us towards what's right. But maybe most importantly, it shows us that divine guidance isn't some harsh test. It's a profound mercy offered to all of us. And this really leaves us with one last thing to think about. The Quran calls this story an ayah, a sign. So what is it a sign of in our own lives? What leaders, what ideas, what friendships are we choosing to follow? And where, ultimately, are they leading us? Towards a future of gratitude or one of profound regret? Thank you so much for joining me.